stories up,
latest on that big
and I want to know if you can hear me.
Prize is now $1 billion.
If you can hear me, can you see me on Facebook?
Monday night,
now,
according to a state
Devin?
Powerball.
Nothing's popped up yet.
Okay.
That's the second largest jackpot in U.S. history, with the biggest prize of some $1.5 billion going to 3 ticket holders in 2016. The winning amount jumped after no one matched all 6 numbers Saturday night.
I see a live video now.
Okay. Mrs. Walton, can you let us know if you can hear us? We need to be able to hear you.
Might have something to do with the odds of.
I hear you well and fine. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Thank you. We're trying to make sure that you can be heard on Facebook and on YouTube.
Number 2, Tick.
Can hear you both on Facebook.
Okay, fantastic. All right, thank you.
Halloween ends.
I am
AP News.
My gospel sister. I am going to.
This is 8:20 a.m.
I've got to do a couple of things here.
And streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com.
This is a news show.
We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter.
A couple of other.
Now your WCPT 820 weather update.
Here's the latest Chicago
Thank you so much for joining me. We enjoyed you so much last week.
For today with cloudy sky conditions, a high in the low 60s.
So welcome.
Winds out of the north around 5 to 10 miles per hour. For tonight, decrease in cloud cover, a low near 45. Tuesday, sunshine, high 67 degrees. Then by Wednesday, mostly sunny sky conditions, a high around 69. Thursday, sunny, high of 71. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 57.
Doesn't your family deserve the best? Eggland's Best Eggs. Classic, cage-free, and organic. Give you and your family more. More delicious, farm-fresh taste. Plus, superior nutrition. Compared to ordinary eggs, Eggland's Best provides 6 times more vitamin D, 10 times more vitamin E, and 25% less saturated fat. These are no ordinary times, so why choose an ordinary egg? Only Eggland's Best. Better taste, better nutrition, better eggs.
This is Donald Trump on abortion.
Do you believe in punishment for abortion? Yes or no, as a principle? The answer is that there has to be some form of punishment. For the woman? Yeah, it has to be some form.
Donald Trump would punish a woman if she had an abortion, maybe even send her to jail. MAGA Republican Darren Bailey's even more extreme. Bailey compares abortion to the Holocaust.
The attempted extermination of the Jews of World War II, it doesn't even compare on a shadow of the life that has been lost and with abortion since its legalization.
But even Trump and Bailey are not as extreme as former state senator and former county board chairman Chris Lauzon. Lauzon wants to outlaw all abortions, no matter what. There is a better alternative. Kane County Democrats are pro-choice. This November, don't criminalize abortion. Say no to Trump, Bailey, and Lauzon. Vote Democrat. Paid for by the Kane County Democratic Party.
Hi, I'm Brad Keselowski, driver of the number 2 Discount Tire Ford Mustang. Did you know one of the most important keys to success on the track and for safe driving on the road is having the right pressure in your tires?
Okay, I have 2 more minutes.
Inflated tires are essential to help
Yes.
Thank you.
Keep you driving safely. Check your tire pressure at least once a month or stop by your local tire retailer for an air check.
A message from the U.S. Tire Manufacturers Association.
Because facts matter. You are listening to WCPT 820.
A new home, refinancing your existing home, securing a VA loan or reverse mortgage, you need to call Team Hochberg, your trusted local lender. Having enough funds for closing costs is one of the biggest hurdles for home buyers. Most buyers don't know that you can secure a closing cost credit from the seller to pay your closing costs. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac allow buyers to receive up to 9%, and FHA allows buyers to receive up to 6% of the purchase price as a closing cost credit. That's why you need to work with the experienced Team Hochberg mortgage professionals who will pre-approve you to purchase a home and explain how to secure a seller's closing cost credit to cover all applicable closing costs and prepaid taxes and insurance. To learn more about the unbelievable benefits of closing cost credits, please give me a call now at 855-56-DAVID or visit 56david.com. That number again is 855-563-2843 or visit our website 56david.com. Lower.com, equal housing lender, MLS 112-4061.
We don't want you on.
All right, 60 seconds, everyone.
Thank you.
Fat. This is weight bias.
I'm worried about your weight.
Don't you care what other people think? Millions who live and are affected by obesity face weight bias every day.
You're not the right fit for this job.
Unfair judgment by others.
Just stop eating so much and exercise some. You lose all this weight.
All right, let's have a great show. Let the words of our mouths and the meditations of our heart be acceptable in thy sight.
Likes me.
Amen.
I do exercise and eat right.
Thank you.
And I talk to my doctor.
Weight bias hurts.
Everyone deserves to be treated with dignity and respect.
Your words and actions matter.
Let's stop weight bias.
Let's work together.
Be part of
10 seconds.
Go to stopweightbias.com and learn more. A public service
Thank
message
you,
from
Devin.
Obesity Action Coalition.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world. I am breathing.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. Happy Halloween. Hope you are ready for a wonderful, wonderful day and night of, what is it? Trick or treat. And we're going to talk with Dr. Shanina Knighton about how we can be safe, because that's really, really the key. Being safe on this Halloween. There's a way to do this, everybody. And then we're going to be talking about this hot mic moment committed by Senator Chuck Schumer, the majority leader, one of the heads of the Democratic Party. He was overheard saying, Fetterman, he wasn't really hurt too badly by this debate. Indeed, he raised a lot of money right after the debate in the immediate 24 hours afterwards. He said, but the Georgia race is going downhill fast. I don't know how people are going for Herschel Walker. We're going to talk about that today. What do you think is going on? We're going to have Cook County Commissioner Donna Miller on to talk about down ballot races. I know your eyes glaze over when you see these pages and pages of people who are running for office. But guess what? They're going to fill the seat. And you need to vote. You need to vote. You need to know who the judges are. You need to know who your county commissioners are. You need to know who your state prosecutors are, and on and on and on. Please do not leave that blank. I'm going to be speaking with her about the importance of that. And of course, what you should do if you find trouble at the polls. If your name has been stricken from the rolls, there's so many things that can and do happen. And so I want you to be protected. And I want you to know that you need to call 1-866-OUR-VOTE should you go vote early. And you have trouble outside the polls or inside the polls. Whatever you do, get in there. Do not leave until you've spoken with these lawyers who are standing by, waiting to help you. Vote.org. Is where you need to call to find out if your name has been purged from the rolls, to find out where you need to go vote. Remember, in 2018, there was one super site, one big precinct, a big room, much like, I guess, Erie Crown, for 660,000 people. That was in Louisville, Kentucky. Can you believe they only had one polling site? Can you imagine those lines? Yeah. And then we had more than 100 that were closed for us in Chicago. In this primary, it impacted potentially more than 100,000 voters. You need to know where you need to go vote. So, everybody, I'm Santita Jackson, coming to you from WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. Let's get to some of these headlines so we can get to the rest of the show. In Chicago, a high of 59 degrees. It is already really cloudy and really, really foggy. That means the hot and the cold is coming. Ooh, it's going to be projected to be a very, very cold winter. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 65 degrees, unseasonably warm there and sunny. Major League Baseball, the Phillies and the Astros are tied in the World Series, and they'll be playing again tonight. In the NFL, the Cowboys bested the Bears 49-29. It was a heartbreaker. I watched it yesterday with my dad. The Vikings, 34, the Cardinals 26. In the NBA, well, the Bulls had some time off, but the Spurs, well, they bested the Timberwolves 107-98. In the NHL, well, Chicago and Minneapolis faced off against each other, and the Wild got Chicago 4-3, everybody. Happy Halloween, everybody. Keep it safe. We're going to be talking with Dr. Shanita Knighton about that in a moment. More than 20 million pre-election ballots have been cast in voting ahead of the 2022 midterms. Now, as of Friday, remember I told you it was 17 million. Over the weekend, nearly 3 million more people voted, everybody. More than 20.7 million pre-election ballots have been cast in 46 states as of Sunday, according to Edison Research and Catalyst. And everybody, remember, 53 million absentee ballots have been requested. 3 states have now crossed the 2 million ballot threshold. More than 2.8 million ballots have been cast in Texas. 2.6 million have been cast in Florida. More than 2.1 million in California. 1.6 million have been cast in Georgia. North Carolina, more than 1 million votes. Wow, everybody. Are you voting? Please vote. Please vote. This election is of tremendous consequence. Hey, Morning Stars. Hey, Barbara Bacon and Dave Dowling and Daryl and Carol, my sister, from another mister out there in Beverly Hills, and Carolyn. And I'm sending you all so much love. Everybody, I want you to call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. And what a ray of hope. Luis Ignacio Lula da Silva has been elected the next president of Brazil in a stunning comeback. He was imprisoned, and many people felt that the imprisonment was political. It was, and this was to keep him out of the presidential race when Bolsonaro won. Well, guess what? Now he came back out of prison and beat him. How about that? Bolsonaro, for his portion, President Bolsonaro has not conceded. But we'll see where all of this goes. Remember, he is very, very close to President Trump. The speculation is that he might not concede and kick up a lot of trouble for Lula. But guess what? That is how he's affectionately known and beloved. It's a huge blow against, as they're saying, fascistic politics, and a huge victory for decency, sanity, and the populist left, and for the people of Brazil. Good for you, good for you. One of my neighbors is moving back to Brazil because she said, I want to live in a Brazil where Lula is the president. Y'all go ahead, everybody. I love it, I love it, I love it. South Korea, people in South Korea and around the world are mourning the 154 victims, and our hearts go out to those families and to those friends. 154 victims who were killed in a crowd-crush in Seoul over the weekend. On Saturday, tens of thousands of people flooded into the narrow alleys of an area in central Seoul to celebrate Halloween. The panic erupted, as the crowd swelled, and some witnesses say it became hard to breathe and impossible to move. God bless them all. Affirmative action is on the chopping block. Let's hope it does not get gutted. The conservative Supreme Court will meet today to consider whether colleges and universities can continue to take race into consideration as a factor in admissions. We will be talking about this tomorrow, because that is something that you need to pay attention to. Elon Musk, everybody. Twitter's new owner tweeted a conspiracy theory Sunday about the violent attack on Paul Pelosi. Of course, he is the 82-year-old husband of House Speaker Pelosi. Our love and prayers go out to her, Mr. Pelosi, and their family. He was attacked in their home, struck by a hammer in the head. He suffered a skull fracture, but he had surgery. Apparently, he's recovering well, and we are sending that whole family so much love. Apparently, the attacker went into the house looking for Nancy, sounding like the January 6th attacks. But a lot of people have been putting a lot of other stories out about this tragedy. So we're just going to continue to pray, including the new owner of Twitter, the pair who were wrongly convicted in Malcolm X's murder will get $36 million from New York State, everybody, and New York City. The city and the state have agreed to pay $36 million to settle lawsuits filed on behalf of 2 men who were wrongfully convicted and spent decades in prison for the assassination of the great Malcolm X. And those are just some of the headlines on the Santita Jackson Show. I'm so glad to be able to welcome back to the show someone who's part of the family here, your gospel sister. We all love her here in Chicago, and really all in the world of Christendom. She means so much to us. She is your gospel sister, the author of 57 Days, Wait for a New Heart, a tremendous woman of God, Pam Morris Walton. How you doing? My gospel sister.
Good morning, Santita. I'm doing so well. I'm doing so well. And when I hear all the headlines that you've given, my God.
It's a lot, isn't it?
And we must vote. It's a lot. My God, it's tons of news.
It is. But when I think of someone who was so dear to both you and I, Albertina Walker, she was always very involved in social causes, as was Mahalia Jackson, her very, very dear friend.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's one of the things that we love about them, because they were very, very much a part of our community and the change and really creating the beloved community, which was and is the goal of Jesus. So the good news, well, that belongs to you.
Yeah. Thank you. The good news is this. Are you in the Diamond Lane? You lived some years ago, Santita, in Southern California, where there are lots of people, lots of cars and freeways, and there's a Diamond Lane. The Diamond Lane is this designated commuter lane. It is an incentive for 2 or even more commuters to help shorten their driving time. And it reduces traffic jams and even pollution. Whenever I'm in the Diamond Lane, I arrive at any of my destinations faster, and I have someone sharing my journey with me. They're desiring the same destination that I am. We have the opportunity to talk if we decide and share, and my journey seems less of a hassle. And in life's journey, traveling the Diamond Lane, I found out sometimes we will have you arrive at your goal faster. Who do you spend most of your time with? Who supports you in accomplishing your goal? You're struggling alone. The traffic jam of life. You're getting nowhere fast. Are you getting nowhere fast? Are you in the slow lane of life? Or are you in the fast lane, headed accident? Yeah, I know there are times you need to travel alone, but there's a difference between being alone and being lonely, Santita. There are times when we are having other people in our car of life slow us down. They may be backseat drivers. There are some of them. And they tell you how to live your life. And sometimes people will have no goals or maps or even of their own. They will talk you into getting off your highway and going a different way. Life is a journey. Your key to get started is your faith, everybody. Your goals are your map. You in the Diamond Lane. Your vehicle is your body. Your fuel is your nutrition. You're the driver. You're in the driver's seat. You're controlling your life, or you are letting a passenger something else different and make your decision. All of these factors, including your own journey, determine the quality of your life, of your person, of you. Sometimes there are detours, and sometimes there's setbacks, I should say. But just remember to get back on the journey, on the highway again. Read 1 and 5. Go with the flow of traffic. Don't stress out with temporary traffic jams when they occur. Travel to the Diamond Lane whenever you can. Are you in the Diamond Lane? Are you? Thank you, Santita. Thank you.
Amen to that. I'd never heard about that. But the Bible does tell you to guard your heart. It tells you to guard your heart and keep your environment clean. Just very quickly, why do you need to keep your environment clean?
You do that because that has a lot to do with your future and your present of how you will control yourself and how you will move on with yourself. If you're not clean, that means you have some involvement there that is not good for you. You can't move forward. You got to get yourself right.
Amen to that.
My goodness gracious alive.
Thank you so much. How can we?
Early in the morning.
Well, no, I had to get you now. I have to get you before everybody else does, because everybody else is calling you. So, so wait a minute. I know what I got to do. Nah, I learned early. I learned early with you. You are someone I got to catch on. I got to get you right now while I can.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You don't stop. And I can't wait to have you on to talk about your book, 57 Days. So many of us are afraid to become organ donors, and we're even afraid to have organs donated to us. But I want you to talk about your journey with your heart, metaphorically and
that's
actually.
why I'm living, because God gave me another chance at life. I have Mario card. Go to PamMooreSpeaks.com.
Okay. I'm going to have you on in the next few days, because I think that, thank God you had insurance. Many of us are walking around and we are really, really sick, and we're not able to we're sick and we cannot get well. And I want you to talk about that with us today, because you have quite the journey, and we have seen you. And I just praise God that you're doing so well. And we love your husband for being such a faithful husband, for taking good care of you. I told you, we love him. We love Mr. Walton. We love him. We love you.
Thank you. God bless you.
God bless you. Can't wait to be with you in the next few days.
Stay in the diamond lane. If you're not in it, get in it. Hallelujah.
I'm getting in the diamond lane. How about that? Then I'll have some diamonds to match Miss Pam's. Love it. We love her. Dr. Shanita Knighton, infection preventionist, brilliant registered nurse, research scientist, college lecturer. And she is just doing so much to help us to understand how we can be vigilant, how we can, it's possible to live in a world in which you do not get sick or minimize your illness and build up your immune system. But today is Halloween. And how should we handle that today? The grown folks and the young folks. Dr. Knighton.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I would say first and foremost, I know that there's a lot of holiday parties, but just as we also know, autumn leaves, fall sneeze, which means that yes, allergy season is here. Colds are here, a lot of other things as well. And so we have to be conscious that when we have areas, we know RSV is running rampant right now, along with, a lot of these other illnesses that children typically get. And so just understand that if your children are at some sort of holiday event or Halloween event, if they're exchanging candy and passing out candy, receiving candy, then there's always going to be that risk for those germs. And so it's just being conscious about hand washing, and then understand too that a lot of people, there's a saying that when a kid gets a cold, an adult gets pneumonia or an adult gets the flu. And so just understand that sometimes the illnesses that they have may seem really mild on them, but may be really, really sickly to us. And so even though we love our kids and we'll kiss their runny noses and everything else, we're not sure we want their germs. And so with us embarking upon Halloween as well as other holidays that are up and coming, it's just being aware of what it is that we touch. We have to recognize that, a lot of the candy is going to be wrapped in plastic. A lot of candy is plastic, but that's a conversation for another day. But you want to make sure that if you are going to be touching those surfaces, of course, you can't wash down candy, but you want to make sure that there is some sort of hand hygiene that happens in between. If you are a person that is passing out candy, I do not recommend that you let all of the children stick their hands in a bucket, but provide a mechanism for which each of them will be able to receive candy individually. It's also, too, as a parent, if you're not sure about the germs that might be on the actual wrappers, it's unwrapping it and being able to place it directly into your child's hands directly, their clean hands directly. And then, too, that might actually help to promote some control in regards to how much they're eating. So there are some safety measures that we can take today in order to be able to enjoy the holiday. I'm looking forward to seeing what some of the costumes look like. Kids smile and just have a good time. But I think we have to be able to think about how to do it safely. And that would actually be my recommendations for today.
Well, that's a big one.
And I was going to say, I do know that it's at the last minute, but I've seen a lot of creativity where people put candy on little picket sticks in the yard so that way they can have like no contact for kids to be able to get candy. I think people put them in individually wrapped bags as a mechanism. So there's different things for people to be able to do. But of course, given the last minute, the best way right now is to just make sure that you're cleaning your hands and conscious of what you touch.
What about when kids go to school? What should you tell your children to do today? Very quickly.
So children anyway should be cleaning their hands. I constantly remind my children that they'll be touching the same surfaces. They'll be doing activities. And as they're thinking about consuming their candy, at school today, think about what it is that they're doing prior to. So if you're touching on surfaces, if you're doing things that you're not supposed to, and then you're consuming candy, then you're consuming other germs. And so I just wanted them to think about that. Just make sure that if they are doing activities, they're not eating candy. And if they're eating candy, then they're not doing activities, and making sure the hand hygiene happens in between.
Dr. Shanina Knighton, everybody. Hey, Dr. Nina is her handle. Hey, Dr. Nina, if you want to really, really understand what you need to do today, go there. Hey, Dr. Nina. She's on social media, and I'm going to tell you, one of the things that I love about her social media is that she breaks it down. It's not like you're sitting in some college lecture, everybody. Well, it is, because you're getting that kind of information, but she breaks it down so that you can understand it and makes it very digestible. Hey, Dr. Nina, HEYDRNINA. I know you have got these wonderful children of yours. Hope that you will have a wonderful Halloween. Very quickly before you go, your great nephew, got to get that health check update. How's he doing?
He's doing good. He'll be out amongst them today, of course, walking slowly, but he'll be out having a good time in his little scarecrow costume. So we're trying to give him a little bit of normalcy.
Praise the Lord. Now, that's the first time you said that in this whole circumstance. We just thank God. God is a miracle worker and can do anything but fail.
Yes.
The great healer, the great healer.
But he ain't been outside nowhere but doctor's offices, so this is a big deal for us today.
Absolutely. It'll be good for everybody. And it's good for all of us morning stars who've been praying for his recovery. Love you so much, Dr. Knighton. Everybody, coming up, let us talk about how you can protect your vote. And then, did you hear about that hot mic moment with Chuck Schumer? He said, Pennsylvania, I think that's going to be okay. But Georgia, I think Herschel Walker might just have that thing. Ooh, and what about down ballot races? Cook County Commissioner Donna Miller is going to talk to us about how important they are. But I want to hear from you at 773-763-9278. Who you got in the midterms? Back in just a minute. Dr. Knighton, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Oh, girl, I'm doing well. Just had a very, very, very long day yesterday. Very, very, super long. I got no rest. And, oh, yeah. And I feel it today. Oh, boy. I really try to decompress once I come off of Keep Hope Alive. I really, really try to do that because it's, because I'm working through the week, and it's something that I'm going to start changing around because it's just.
Listen, ain't that something?
Yeah, it's a lot.
I'm the same way right now too. Like, it's crazy because I'm not a bad eater, right? So I got to get that disclaimer first and foremost. But you know what you normally do in terms of habits. And so, like, for me, I actually consciously think about, like, how I eat and how I behave around this season. Just because I know it's like it can be a stressful season, and it's a season where it gets easy to fall off of, let's say, like, eating habits, fitness. You get comfortable because of the weather, just being indoors and not wanting to go anywhere. So, I'm trying to make sure that I'm practicing good habits consciously. And so just even with today being October 31st, like I started today, I know people typically wait till the first of the year, but I'm like, nope, I'm starting it today. And that's just really just, making sure that I'm prepped, healthy eating up until the holidays. So that way I don't feel bad about the holiday. So, giving myself some room with some things. So, and I'm sure there's some others that can probably resonate with that too right now in regards to like, dang.
Sending Attorney Hoffler and Attorney Daryl Jones through.
New Year's resolution and kickstarting something. It's like, nah, I'm going to start it now because I'm going into 2023, with great energy and great health.
I am too. And I'm moving a lot of things out in more ways than one. Moving a lot of things out. And we're just going to keep on going. That's all I can say. But I love you. I'm going to let you go. We're going to, unless you want to listen to us as we talk about protecting your vote. Voter suppression is real, everybody, everywhere. 53 million Americans have requested absentee ballots. 20 million have voted already. 20 million, almost 21 million Americans have voted already. But you've had tens upon thousands who've had their voting registration challenged. So what do you need to carry to the polls? Just in case you've not had a chance to go to vote.org, just in case you were magically purged overnight, what should you carry to the polls with you? What kind of ID? What do you do?
60 seconds, everyone.
Thank you so much, Devin. What do you do when things go? How can you go right when things go wrong at the polls? How about that? So everybody, I want you to like and share this show, and call us at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. CK, how you doing?
Good morning, Santita. How are you?
Good. And how's your family?
Everybody's good. Thank you for asking. Everybody's good. We're progressing.
Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Attorney Jones, how are you?
Hi, good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Santita. Good morning, CK.
Yay. When are you heading to Georgia,
nice and
Daryl?
cool in Chicago.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Say again?
And in Kenosha too. So
10 seconds. She's not going to let me live that down, right?
Ever.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. Call me at 773-763-9278. Have you voted already? Do you know what to do if you get to the vote, if you get to the polls and you've got these tens of thousands of poll watchers who are there, who are physically intimidating? Certainly, they are just intimidating. They're intimidating, and they intend to be. They have been trained that way. Literally, they've been trained by the GOP to intimidate you and to keep you away from the vote. Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. Of course, I'm on WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. More than 20 million pre-election ballots have been cast, and voting ahead of the 2022 midterm, 53 million absentee ballots have been requested. 3 states have now crossed the 2 million ballot threshold. More than 2.8 million ballots have been cast in Texas. Wow. 2.6 million in Florida. 2.1 million in California. 1.6 million in Georgia. North Carolina has now more than 1 million voters. Why are people voting? Well, everything is on the chopping block. Or should I say everything is up for grabs. Every house of representative seat is up for re-election. 1/3 of the U.S. Senate up for re-election. The control of Congress is on the table. And what about governorships? Absolutely. What about state representatives and state senators? Absolutely. What about your prosecutors? What about the judges? As we've been looking at these trials, you see how important it is to vote for that judge, how important it is for us to know the judge. We've got to change the system around so that they have to kind of campaign like everybody else. We need to know who they are, don't you think? So I want you to call me at 773-763-9278. But let's talk about Also, in this segment, as we at the top of the hour, or even might even kind of move into that here, we're going to be talking about this hot mic moment. Hot darn it, CK, in which Chuck Schumer said, Fetterman, I think he's going to be okay in Pennsylvania. Warnock, I'm not so sure this is going downhill. What is their internal data telling them? But let's start here. How do you protect your vote? Of course, we've got attorney C.K. Hoffler, chair of the board of Rainbow Push, legal analyst on Court TV, and host of her own show on WAOK in Atlanta. But she is also the past president of the National Bar Association, the largest, most prestigious Black bar association in the world, more than 65,000 lawyers. And of course, the chairman of the Transformative Justice Coalition, he and attorney Barbara Arnwine, who hosts their own show on WOL every Tuesday at 12 noon following CK Hoffler's WAOK show at 11 Eastern Standard Time. They will be observing the elections down in Georgia at the request of people in Georgia. What could go wrong, Daryl Jones? I mean, just give me like the top 3 or 4 things that could go wrong when you get to the polls. And what kind of ID do you need to carry? I mean, what could go wrong?
And good morning, Santita. And that's an excellent question as to what can go wrong. Let's start at the very beginning. What we encourage everyone to do first and foremost, and you'll hear me saying this in perpetuity, is that you need to go to vote.org before you do anything else. Go to vote.org and just check on your voting status. Be certain that you have not been removed or purged from the rolls. Be certain that you're going to the proper polling site where you are assigned to vote. Now, what are the things that could go wrong? Here are some of the things that go wrong. One of the things that is very typical is that you go to the voting site and you don't have your identification. And they don't let you vote because you don't have any type of identification. So you want to be certain that you take some form of identification with you, whether it's a driver's license, a state identification card, whether it's a phone bill, whether it's something that identifies you and the address that you're going to be voting from. So you want to take some form of identification with you to vote. Now, other things that could possibly go wrong in terms of the top things that go wrong is that once you get to your polling place, it's closed. For some reason, it hasn't opened yet. It's late opening. So you want to be certain to know the times of your polling place. Understand that if the polling place is closed, you want to call the election office because they're supposed to be open. There may be some problem that's going on. There may be a problem with the machines that are going on. So all of those are potential issues that are normal.
Let me put a pin in that. If they open late, do they stay open later?
They can stay open later, but it's a call that's going to be made by the election official, and they've got to get special permission in order to stay open late. So if they're 15, 30 minutes late opening, they can get permission to stay open a little later, but they don't necessarily have to. And if I recall correctly, I think that CK encountered that very issue down in Georgia in 2020, where the poll was late. Poll site was late opening, and oftentimes the resolution is to keep it open the extra 10 or 15 minutes, but it is dependent upon that jurisdiction's election place and whether or not they make that determination to do that or to close it at its proper time. One of the things that, and when we start talking about timing, one of the things that voters need to truly be aware of is that if you're one of those last-minute voters and you're running from work, from you're the hockey mom, soccer mom, football mom, basketball mom, and you get in line at the very last minute, and they start closing the doors. If you are in line, you have the right to vote. If you are in line, you have the right to vote before the bewitching hour of when they shut down voting. So if you're in line, stay in line because you have that right to vote, as long as you're there before the hour at which they close. Now, some of the bigger issues that we're encountering now deal with situations such as in Arizona, where you have the folks that are out there with the tactical gear and the guns around poll boxes, drop boxes, and trying to intimidate voters from coming to drop off their vote by mail ballots. And the question is, if you encounter one of those situations, what do you do? Well, what we recommend you do is a couple things. One, you want to use your weapon, your cell phone, to take a picture of what it is that you're experiencing. Number two, if they are speaking to you, if they are confronting you, and you have the ability to record what's being said, you want to record what's being said. And let me explain the importance of that. It is illegal in every state in this country to intimidate voters, intentionally intimidate voters to try to stop them from casting their ballots. So you want to generate the proof so that when you send it to either the election protection folks, or if you call the 866 Our Vote hotline, you'll have that information to be able to download to them to use as proof of what has happened in this case. You can also use the Legal Defense Fund, LDF. They will be doing the same thing across the country in terms of providing assistance. So all of that is there with regards to some of the issues that voters face. In some states, Georgia, for instance, where you have these voter challenges that can occur, and you have, unlimited number of voter challenges where someone can simply collect names and addresses of folks that they know are African American or Latino and mount a written challenge to all of these people, so that when these voters go to the poll, they may not even know that their right to vote has been challenged. So if you get to the polling place,
well, hold on. If it's been challenged, has your name been taken off the rolls, or does that mean you can't vote? What does that mean?
Right. If you've been challenged, it means that you cannot vote until they have what they call a hearing to make a determination that you are a valid voter. And so typically they'll send out a notice for the hearing, but the time frame is too short. There's not going to be a hearing. So what we encourage people to do is, if you get to the polling place and you've been challenged, have with you identification, because that's what the challenge is based on, is do you live where you say you live? Are you who you say you are? So what you want to do is you want to have your state identification with you. We encourage people, to take your cable bill. You can take your phone bill, anything that has that, your car insurance bill, anything that will have your name and the address that connects it. I even tell people that if you don't want to take all the bills with you, take your phone and take a picture of the bills, so you can show it to them and show them the identifications that you have to show that you're connected to that address. So that's extremely important, and that's one of the situations that people do encounter at the polls, particularly in Georgia, and when they're going to vote. So those are a lot of the big issues, Santita, that people come across. Oftentimes, if we're at that point where that challenge is occurring, they're going to want you to vote a provisional ballot. And if it gets to the point where provisional ballot is what you're forced to do, that's your last option, then you can vote that provisional ballot. But we want that to be your last option, because there's no guarantee of your provisional ballot being counted. You want to be certain that once you've taken all these steps, that your vote counts and that you're able to have an impact on the representation in your community. But it doesn't stop there, because after you have cast your ballot, you've gone through all the steps, you started with the vote.org. After all of that has occurred, we encourage you to go to ballottracks.com, ballottracks.com, BALLOTTRAX.com. From Ballot Tracks, you can then track your ballot to see what's happening with it. Has it made it through the process? Has it been counted? So that's the complete process of what we anticipate voters going through. There's going to be, as we get closer to November the 8th, we know there's going to be a lot more intensity that's going to be growing around particularly the in-person voting, with people that are trying to intimidate folks from voting. We know that they've been training people, conservatives have been training people to interfere, intimidate voters that are waiting in line and are, trying to cast their ballots, trying to get them frustrated, trying to get them to the point where they won't vote, where they'll get out of line, where they can call the police and have some type of, melee or scurry or some incident that then occurs. The focus here has got to be to stay calm, stay focused, stay in line, and get your vote on. Be certain you cast that ballot.
Everybody, what was it? 773-763-9278. 773-763-9278. C.K. Hoffler, Attorney C.K. Hoffler, voter intimidation is very, very real, and it's happening all over the country. I mean, these guys are packing guns at the ballot boxes in Arizona. Can you give me some of the more, just give me some instances of voter intimidation and what you do in real time in a real life situation.
Well, in real time, Santita, the first thing you have to do is be mindful of your surroundings. That's very important, to be mindful of your surroundings, because sometimes danger lurks if you're not paying attention. So when people are armed, if there are people that are intimidating at the polls, be mindful of that. If you see a dangerous situation, call 911. But before you get there, before you get out of your car, be mindful of the fact that you should have your voter, your ID, just as Daryl has said, and even though take a picture, but you have to remember sometimes it has to be a clear picture, because some of the the volunteers that are there are not as tech savvy as you'd like. So I would say, just throw, if you can, if you're driving, throw a couple bills in your car, but take a picture too in case that works. But in case it doesn't, you can have the hard copy, so there's no issue. And I'm anticipating more scrutiny the closer we get to voter day. The third thing, if you encounter any type of issue, as we did in Georgia, such as, and Daryl's right, I did experience this, where one of the polls is open late, the equipment isn't working, the lines are really long, you're waiting in line for 5 and 6 hours, you got to go to the bathroom. Then I say your common sense has to kick in this way. You've got people in front of you and people behind you. If you got to go to the bathroom, talk to the people in front of you and people behind you so that they will save your place. Don't just leave, but just be mindful of your surroundings. There is danger, unfortunately, surrounding this process. Calling 911 is very reliable in this instance. I know some people have hesitation when they talk about calling the police, but it is absolutely positively illegal, as Daryl has said, to engage in voter intimidation with assault weapons and all of that. So if you feel threatened, if they're too close to the polls, call 911, address it that way, and de-escalate. And also encourage your faith leaders to play a role at the polls. Many of them are already playing a role, but I would encourage that.
So what should we, Daryl, what do you want people to know about this particular election season? We see people are supercharged about voting. 20.7 million voted as of yesterday. We've had several states cross the 2 million vote mark. Several more states cross the 1 million vote mark. This kind of engagement, I love it. It's wonderful. That having been said, we also have people who've been deployed across all the states and territories to turn people away from voting. Make the case for people to not be turned away. Because, I would imagine beyond guns, there would be misinformation and disinformation, like go here, or go over there. That's why you need to go to vote.org so you know definitively where you need to go vote. And I think people, can you give me like a short voter's bill of rights? I know I didn't ask you that in advance, but what do we have the right to do?
Well, the most important.
Why are you laughing at me?
The right to vote.
I'm thinking about it because you know what happens, Daryl and CK. You don't think about this until you're in the moment, and I guess I feel that way because it happened to me. And I've told this story countless times. My brother Jesse was in Congress at the time, so it was more than when he left Congress 10 years ago, CK. And it was about that time. And I was told that I had come in, Daryl, at 6 o'clock in the morning. The one thing I don't do, I don't roll out of bed and go anywhere. I am ready for the world when I step out my door. Okay. I said, and you all know this. You know I was not in here just after 6 o'clock this morning. You know I wasn't here. And I could not believe tears formed in my eyes. I was so angry because I was strenuously arguing with people who I know. They were like, well, Miss Jackson, I said, you know what? I will call the news right now. I said, I am on Fox News. I promise you before the Lord, I will call them. And I'll call every other news outlet. I'm not going to let you do this to me. We'll give you a provisional ballot. I said, I don't want one. I don't want it. I said, you all work this out. This is your mess up. It's not mine. I said, and I love you, but don't play with me about my vote. What are our rights, Daryl? Because in that moment, I was
absolutely.
like, I was so furious.
And, you absolutely have the right to vote. You absolutely have the right to vote.
But then what was Scalia talking about then? Scalia in 2000 said, you don't have a federally protected right to vote, right? So what was he talking about?
But, Santita, that's going to be a whole nother show.
Okay.
When we start talking about Justice Scalia, you know we're going down a whole different path.
Okay.
But you absolutely have, you absolutely have.
Maybe after the election, because that would be a whole nother show.
Well, okay. I want to have that show. And dedicate it to Frank Watkins, who wanted us to have the federally protected right to vote. Amen.
Absolutely. So, but one of the things, we talk about the high involvement that we now see occurring in this election cycle. And part of the reason we see this high voter involvement is because there are so many issues that Americans are voting on this time through. And whether you're talking about that unfettered access to the right to vote, we call voting rights, that's one of the things that's driving Georgia voters, is that, we know they put these barriers up to try to stop them from voting. That's just one of the issues that's driving them. We also have across the country the whole abortion ban issue that's driving voters, and all the other democracy-based issues of people's rights to be able to exercise those rights. But along with that, we also see this high intensity that's there because of both sides being so well grounded in their positions that are in opposite of each other, that we see the armed people at the poll, at the drop boxes. We see people that are trying to intimidate voters by taking pictures of their identification, pictures of their driver's license, trying to ask them questions. Are you a mule carrying ballots for other people to put into this drop box to fix the election? All of this is what has led to this high intensity election and the high voter turnout that we're experiencing now. So, when we talk about our voters' Bill of Rights, we want to be certain that our voters know that they have the right to be unencumbered, unintimidated in going to drop your ballot box. You have an absolute right not to be questioned about whether or not your vote is your ballot is your ballot. Does it really belong to you? No one should be coming up and asking you that question. Take your ballot, put it in the drop box, go to your polling place, do your thing, and remember, you have that right to vote, and there's no one that should be interfering with that right to vote. One of the things that I wanted to lay out, Santita, are actually two things. One, if you run into any issues, any encounters, anyone's up in your face, in addition to calling the local authority, in addition to alerting the election protection officials that may be at the site, the election judge that should be at the site, also call 866-OUR-VOTE. 866-OUR-VOTE, because they're going to hook you up with a lawyer right then and there. They're going to document what's going on right then and there, not only for your situation, but for subsequent situations that may occur in that situation. Is there a pattern or practice? You may not know that from your individual encounter, but if you call 866-OUR-VOTE, we will be able to determine if there's a pattern and practice that's going on in that area, because other people may be calling with similar situations. The other part I want to implore our faith leaders to do One of the things we learned from Charlottesville, that when Heather Meyer was killed and all the turmoil and racial animosity that was going on in Charlottesville, Virginia, when the faith leaders showed up in their regalia, peace reigned. People calmed down. They were less likely to be violent to one another when they were there. We encourage all of the faith leaders throughout Georgia and wherever else, put your regalia on and just be out at the polls. You'll help to keep the calm. You'll help to keep the peace. You'll find that people are less likely to act out if they see members of the ministerial alliances, faith leaders that are in place. That, I think, is a huge part. We implemented that during the 2020 runoffs that were in Georgia, and it worked phenomenally well, Santita. So we encourage the community to still get involved in this and protect other members of the community.
Well, indeed, that is your job. You know, when my father left the University of Chicago Seminary, he had a full scholarship there, Rockefeller Foundation grant. He chose between seminary and Duke University Law School. And Dr. King, one semester shy of my father's graduation, said, I need you to come on out and work for me right now. And my father looked at him because, you know, these are men and women who valued education. And the Wyatt T. Walkers and the Andrew Youngs and all of these people, you know, Hosea Williams was a chemist. Many people don't know that. These were very highly educated people who'd gone to black schools, and then they went to some of the top white schools in the world. So my father looked at Dr. King and said, Doc, you got to be kidding me. You have a PhD. You are and he knew how much Dr. King valued education. He said, you know, I can teach you more about theology than they can teach you in that seminary. Son, you need to come with me now. Thank God he did it, because he only had about 3 years left to live. Now, 2 years. My father had been working with him anyway as a volunteer. So, you know, that is your job. Rabbi, imam, Christian minister, Buddhist monk, it's your job to fight for justice. And fighting for justice is going to the polls and setting the tone. You're right. My pastor, Reverend Evans, used to say, when real men stand up, mess sits down. When real women stand up, mess sits down. And when the clergy come into the room, I mean, people who really, really are persons of God, things change. Get out there and be at the polls and reset the tone, everybody. Reset the table. Let's talk about this hot mic moment. And please, everyone, get some smelly salts for CK. Because Chuck Schumer said something that I knew made her pass out. Are you back, CK? He said, you know, Pennsylvania's going to be okay. It's Georgia that's going downhill. Downhill is his term, everybody. What do you think? Call me at 773-763-9278. CK, don't faint. I need you for this next segment. Back in just a moment. CK, you there? Is she there?
I said, our Father. I said, I'm here. Our Father,
who art in heaven.
art in heaven.
Hallowed be thy name.
Hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. That's what I was doing.
On earth as it is in heaven. Give us a say.
On my back, you know how you throw it on your back, praise Jesus, all that. Oh, Santita.
No, you know what? Let me tell you something, girl. This is power politics. You know, we have a very middle class approach. You go to school, you get your qualifications, you get your credentials. These folks, that's not politics, baby. Politics is a street fight. Now, that's something that I had to learn. And, you know, it's a street fight. Girl, they will have, what was it, Edgar Bergen and Charlie McCarthy, and they will elect Charlie McCarthy to sit in the seat.
Well, I'm waiting for Herschel Walker to sing "We Shall Overcome."
No, don't do that.
Waiting, it's coming.
Don't do that, baby. Don't do that.
No, the reason why I'm saying this is he is, as the days go by, he's sounding more angelical as the days go by.
But that's okay. No one cares about that.
That's okay. But let me just tell you this: no matter what, Senator Raphael Warnock,
sending Attorney Connolly and Attorney Patillo through.
It's not a huge lead, but he has a dominant. He is in the lead, and he can win. And I say that because that is what not only, I don't know that I always trust what the pollsters say, because it just depends on any given day.
No, this would, but see,
that
this
is what in the field.
No, I And I'm with you. I just thought it was very interesting, given because you know how campaigns work, internal polling data and all of that. There are things that they know. You know what? And I want everybody to get out there and vote, because what did they say? People vote. Polls don't vote. People do. I remember. Okay, election is on Tuesday, right? They canceled the biggest part of Hillary Clinton's celebration that Sunday. I said, oh no. Oh no. And then you know what? Election night, some of her top people were still at the hotel. Now, I was on my way over to Fox to do my commentary. I'm like, what are y'all doing over here? It is 6:30. Because I know I'm going to have to fight my way in to Javits Center. I said, oh boy. And I looked at Jonathan. He said, she lost, honey. And they had not, and the returns were just beginning to, the polls had not even closed in New York City. He said, she's here. I'm not mentioning any names. She's here, he's here. They're not going to release the balloons. He said, hello. They know.
Santita?
Yes.
I think that we have to trust what Chuck Schumer is saying. But he's saying what we've all been saying and feeling. Senator Warnock can win this. It is shocking beyond credulity that the race is where it is. It's just shocking beyond credulity. But this is where it is. And what I took from Chuck Schumer's message was, can you believe this? Blankety, 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 and then more blankety. Can you believe this? It's not a foregone conclusion that Senator Warnock will win Georgia.
Right.
That's how I took it.
No, I took it that way too.
Fortunately, he spoke, he leaked it, he spoke, it got caught, mic, whatever, early enough where there's still the ability for people to vote and to make a difference. Because for those people who were sleeping saying that, well, Senator Warnock got this in the back, and how could Ursula Walker? There are a lot of people who think that way. They are understanding, because some people don't watch TV. Some people don't watch the news. We are making many assumptions. A lot of people live stream. They look at social media and things like that. And depending upon what social media you follow, you'll get different recitations of what's going on. So if it mobilized people to get out, especially young voters in Georgia, who might be feeling a little disenfranchised, but they overwhelmingly did show up and supported, many of them, Senator Warnock. And so those young voters, I would say in Georgia, that's the group to really cater to and to tap. And I believe social media is the way, and that is why I believe there's a huge, massive amount of money put in social media in terms of these races here in Georgia, especially now. So Chuck Schumer said what we all know and what others have been saying, but it was sobering, if you will, to hear it from an insider who, as you have said, Santita, they have access to information I wouldn't have access to, no matter how, we know the this to the that to the that to this, and we're hooked into these networks that we have. We are not hooked into the inside network if we're on the outside. And I am on the outside. And many of us are on the outside working hard so that these candidates that we want to win. But we're still on the outside. So when we do hear Chuck Schumer given his position and where he is, we do stand and note. And he's concerned, as we're all concerned, because there's a sense of just incredulity in life. What are we seeing here? And what is it saying? This does not bode well for where we are in this country. But all of this we knew going into the election, and we know it now. It's just playing
I think we do know this, because we know, folks. Many white people would prefer, not all, but a big chunk. 76% of white women voted for Brian Kemp, not Stacey. They would rather have him, Herschel. They don't want another Thurgood Marshall. No. Clarence.
Well, and Peter, let me tell you the latest thing that's happening. The latest thing that's happening, and CNN reported on this, and other media reported on this.
60 seconds, everyone.
I got less than a minute.
There are, not that we can trust this, but there are Republicans coming out and saying we just can't do it. We just can't do Herschel Walker. So what we're seeing is that there's a ticket. It's crazy, but not a fictitious ticket, where people are supporting Warnock and Kemp. How about that? For for a dropping the mic moment.
Hero, please, all these folks, look, I just want, what are these folks going to do to legislate? I'm sick of them all.
Can't trust it.
Nothing. Because you have to advocate like the Dickens when anybody gets in. Who do we have? We have Robert Patillo.
Yes, we have Attorney Connolly, Attorney Patillo, Attorney Hoffler, and Attorney Jones.
All right, y'all, let's have some fun. Ooh, smelling salts, keep them
10 seconds.
CK.
I need the smelling sauce, but I'm doing the Lord's Prayer now. Our Father who art in heaven. That's what I'm doing. Tell him that.
Change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show, WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. Let's talk about voting, everybody. 20.7 million Americans have voted. We're breaking all kinds of records. At least 3 states have crossed the 2 million voter threshold mark. Several more have crossed the million-person threshold of voting mark. It is incredible. Everyone is voting. 53 million have requested absentee voter ballots. Have you voted, everybody? Go to vote.org, vote.org. Find out if you've been purged from the registration rolls. Just find out what your status is, and then you find out where you go vote. You can rectify these things now. If you have any trouble at the polls, just outside or inside, don't leave. Call 1-866-OUR-VOTE, 1-866-OUR-VOTE. And as Attorney Darrell Jones has been telling us, chairman of the Transformative Justice Coalition, your weapon is your telephone. If people are trying to intimidate you, take photos. They're taking photos of your license plates. You need to, because you got to build a case. You got to build a case. Let people know who's doing what to you. So let's get right to it, everybody. What about this hot mic moment that Senator Chuck Schumer said, the majority leader in the U.S. Senate? He said, look, Pennsylvania, tough debate last week, but, even the Fetterman debate, it didn't really hurt us. I think we're going to be okay. But Georgia, oh my goodness, we're going downhill. Can you believe that people are choosing Herschel Walker? What is his internal data saying? I want to know what your thoughts are. Call us at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. Aaron, pass CK the smelling salts right now, because she is having a fit. And of course, we have Attorney Robert Patillo, Attorney Aaron Connolly, Attorney Darrell Jones, and Attorney C.K. Hoffler. At the bottom of the hour, we're going to be talking about these down ballot races with Illinois Cook County Commissioner Donna Miller. You all stay on for that, because, we can't just vote for the top of the ticket. You got to vote for everybody. That's what matters, everybody. Chicago will have a high of 59 degrees. It is really foggy out there, but the hot and the cold air, it's meeting. Showers today. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 65 degrees. Boy, it's balmy up there. 65 degrees and sunny. Major League Baseball, the Phillies and the Astros are tied in the World Series. They'll be meeting tonight in the NFL. Well, the Bears took a hit yesterday. The Cowboys 49, the Bears 29. And the Vikings, though, they were triumphant over the Cardinals, 34-26. In the NBA, the Bulls had the night off, but not the Timberwolves. They went down to the Spurs, 107-98. In the NHL, Chicago and Minneapolis met, and the Wild were triumphant, 4-3. Everybody, dedicating the show to my pastor from New York, Reverend Dr. Calvin Butts, the senior pastor of the iconic Abyssinian Baptist Church. Of course, that is the church of Adam Clayton Powell, Jr. and Sr., sending him and his family much, much love today. He did so much to serve the community. He became one of America's pastors. He made his transition just a few days ago at the tender age of 73, an educator, a philanthropist, a true servant, a true man of God, made his transition, and we thank God for having known him as he walked this way. 20.7 million Americans have cast their votes. What do you make of that, everybody? What is going on? What about the armed vigilantes, who are just the tip of the voter intimidation iceberg? That's what we are hearing. But guess what? People are still voting. 2.8 million in Texas, 2.6 million in Florida, 2.1 million in California. That's right. 1.6 million in Georgia, North Carolina, more than 1 million people. People are voting, voting, voting. Are you? Please get out there and vote. Everybody get out there and vote. In Brazil, Lula Inácio da Silva. Well, guess what? He won. I am so excited. Excuse me, Luis Inácio Lula da Silva, affectionately known as Lula, the people's champion, arrested, put in jail so that he would not be able to run against President Bolsonaro. Well, guess what? He came out of prison, and the 76-year-old former union leader, Reverend Jackson, went to, he was invited to campaign for him when he first ran for president and won. Well, guess what? He won. They say this is a comeback for the ages. He was imprisoned for 580 days. I've always told you these imprisonments, they are political acts. And guess what? He came back. They are now saying that it's a Brazil of hope. The people feel that they have the champion that has been put in office. Bolsonaro, for his portion, has yet to concede his election. Many people are looking at that because he is one of President Trump's peers, colleagues, acolytes. Will he behave as President Trump has done and remain president kind of in exile? We don't know. Affirmative action is on the docket in the U.S. Supreme Court. The conservative Supreme Court will meet today to consider whether colleges and universities can continue to take race into consideration as a factor in admissions, a case that could diminish the number of Black and Hispanic students in higher education. Challenges in this case are targeting Harvard and the University of North Carolina, arguing that their programs violate equal protection principles. Wow, dash the promise of a colorblind society and discriminate against Asian Americans by selling higher standards for their admission. To be fair, there is a real strain of conservatism in the Asian community, but guess what? There is a real, very strong strain of progressives. So all Asian Americans do not feel this way. Important to note that. $36 million will be awarded to two men who were wrongly convicted of murdering Malcolm X. New York State and New York City have agreed to pay them $36 million. And those are just some of the headlines on the Santita Jackson Show. What about this hot mic moment? What happened? Well, President Biden landed in Syracuse, landed on the tarmac, and he was having, small talk, kind of, sort of, with Chuck Schumer, he's a majority leader in the U.S. Senate. And so Chuck Schumer just said, look, they're kind of chewing the fat on the tarmac. And he said, look, I think we're going to be okay in Pennsylvania. We'll be all right. But the state where we're going downhill, I quote, the state where we're going downhill is Georgia. It's hard to believe that they will go for Herschel Walker. It was a candidate evaluation, everybody, and it's caught a lot of people off guard. But what do you think about this? Many people look at this Heisman Trophy winner and they say, okay, but how could anyone vote for Herschel Walker? This is politics, everybody. This ain't who's going to get into the Honor Society or who's going to get a Phi Beta Kappa. Now, that is not what politics is about. And many people who would otherwise object to the personal life wink nod of that we know. That has been, should I say, alleged with Herschel Walker. They don't care about that. They just want the seat. Get out of here. That's what this is about. This is what it's politics, everybody. Nobody cares about that. If you had Edgar Bergen and Charlie McCarthy, if they had to choose, if they wanted to get a seat, someone to occupy the seat, they'd pick the dummy. No pun intended. They would pick Charlie McCarthy. Just put him in the seat. That's all I need. I need the seat. We've got Aaron Connolly, brilliant political strategist. And because we're seeing the race out in Arizona, it's tightening up. Mark Kelly, whoa. I mean, it's like a seesaw. I'm hearing Aretha Franklin in my head, Aaron. Of course, C.K. Hoffler needing her smelling salts today down there in Georgia. Chair of Rainbow Push, legal analyst on Court TV, former president of the National Bar Association, and of course, the chairman of the Transformative Justice Coalition. He and attorney Barbara Arnwine, the founder and president, are on their way to Georgia to be election observers. That's what the people of Georgia want them to do. They said, you've got to help us to keep this fair. Let me start with you, attorney Robert Patillo. Why don't you set the table for us? What is going on? I mean, are you surprised by this observation by by Senator Schumer because, what does he know that we don't know? Because, all campaigns have their internal polling data. Something's going on here. Or am I paranoid?
No, this is, you're absolutely correct. I think that this is actually the best thing that could have leaked out for once, because one of the problems that Democrats often have in elections is hubris. That they get down to the wire and they get fat and sassy. They take their foot off the gas pedal because they think they have the thing won. They go on Hillary in 2016 when she got a little bit too confident towards the end and got a little cagey, which allowed Trump to stay close. And when somebody's close, that means they have a puncher's chance, and that's where the race ended up. I think this was a clarion call to everybody in the organizing community, not just to look at the early voting numbers where you have millions and millions of people that already got out there and early voted, to not look at the debate performance of Herschel Walker and the scandals related to him, and realize that the Republican Party is full of it. That when all this talk that they have about family values and Christian conservatism and being pro-life and pro-family and yada, 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 no, they care about power. They care about having 50 votes in the Senate so that they can block any agenda that will help the poor and working classes. They want to make sure they have a majority so they can secure tax cuts in the next time they have a Republican president, hopefully for them in 2024. This is all about power. This is all about money, and everything else is just window dressing. I think it's been laid bare by this campaign above all others, where you have a literal Baptist minister that Republicans' response is, well, he's not a real minister. I'm going to support this woman beater because he's more Christian than the Christian minister. It's just laid bare the hypocrisy that they're actually operating with. And Chuck Schumer's made it clear that, look, these people don't expect them to suddenly have a moral epiphany and say, well, I just can't do it. Don't expect these people to have the courage of their convictions and come to the right side. You're going to fight it out. It's going to be a tooth and nail fight. It's all about GOTV. It's all about mobilizing your people. It's about souls to the polls. It's about making sure that every single vote across the state is counted. And I think this is the best thing that could happen for Democrats. I think that in reality, the polls are so close because the nation still remains so divided between the people who decide to live in reality and the ones who live in fantasy land. And we have to pick candidates who are able to bridge that gap, not these kind of Looney Tunes off the wall candidates who are just going to further divide America apart.
But I am concerned about the undecideds, Robert Patillo. And they're out there. And the people who do not tell you the truth. The truth is told when you draw that curtain and vote, right? So, if you had to look at the undecideds, who you got? Robert Patillo.
Well, I think that if you're talking about undecided voters, at this point, I don't think there's a lot of people really banding about on policy. One of the mistakes the Democrats made this election cycle is trying to do a rerun, trying to make it another campaign about Trump like they did in 2020. This should have been the policy election, because if you look at someone like Herschel Walker and you say, when did anyone ever ask him, Mr. Walker, what is your policy to ensure that Social Security Trust Fund lasts for another generation? Or, Mr. Walker, what the military budget is $813 billion this year with an actual imprint of $1.3 trillion. What will be your plan to both balance the budget and also maintain military readiness, etc.? That by allowing these people to get away with kind of these vague and silly answers to things, it really didn't draw the contrast for the American voters that maybe would have between a J.D. Vance and Tim Ryan, or between Mandela Barnes and Ron Johnson, or Mark Kelly out in Arizona, and many of the other races. So I think it's less so about undecided voters, but more so about the voters who are deciding whether or not they want to vote. That many people have their minds made up, but it's about whether or not they even feel the enthusiasm and the necessity to get out there and turn out. I think with the amount of money being spent in this race, too much of it's being dedicated to commercial after commercial after commercial, and more has to be dedicated to ensuring that every single person who wants to vote or is interested in vote can be literally drugged to the polls polls to ensure they have the opportunity to express their franchise, and that's where the battle's going to be won. I think it's less about persuading people at this point and more so about getting them there.
You know, Aaron Connolly, knowing what you know about the internals of campaigns, what do you make of this? I mean, I think it could be good news because it could be, like a real, impetus to get people to get out and vote. Or maybe not.
We never want to get too confident. That's the scariest thing for campaign managers and folks that are working on these races, right? We don't want to take anything for granted when we're in this GOTV period. So this idea that someone would be leading so much that their vote isn't going to matter at the last minute, that especially in states like Georgia, where people are thinking, oh, I don't want to wait in a 2-hour line. I don't want to take the risk, or I don't want to have to take time off work. That motivation increases when there is a closer horse race, right? And we know that. I think Senator Schumer understands that. I think this hot mic moment was a moment of probably exasperation for how close this race has been in Georgia, and we've been talking about it for months, that it shouldn't be this close, and why it actually is. But at this point in the race, especially as you mentioned the social media push at the last minute, those ads will stop as of tomorrow. So the push you saw this weekend was the last ditch effort of some of these paid campaigns on Facebook and some other social media sites that have blackout periods before the election. So what's important now for campaigns to do, and supporters, right, is to come get your people. Make sure that your friends and family have their plan to vote. Call your 10 people and say, I voted. This is how I voted. These are the judges I voted for. Go down your ballot. Share a picture of your ballot if you voted early and say, this is why I voted for these people. That piece of the organizing makes a huge difference, especially at the end. For folks that haven't voted a lot, for new voters that maybe just started voting in the last cycle or two, it's important to remind folks that you think that this is important and the reasons why you think it's important, right? The folks on TV and us even on the radio, we're making our best case to have folks show up. But really what makes the biggest impact is that person to person, friend to friend, family to family. And ask everybody that you talk to, what's your plan to vote? Did you take off election day? Does your employer allow you to take a break? Help people facilitate their own advocacy and activism in our democratic process. And as we get closer and closer, we got to keep up those reminders because, as I mentioned, a lot of those social media pieces will stop in the 2 weeks leading up. So we have to do our own part and remind our folks that they have to vote, and they have to vote through the whole ballot. And I know you're going to talk about that in a little bit.
No, I mean, we are. I mean, but, were you surprised by this, CK? I mean, do you think that this could be motivation for people to get out and vote?
I think it could be motivation, Santita. I think it could be motivation. It should be motivation for people to continue to get out the vote. Since we have record numbers of voters in Georgia, I think that is going to make a strong impact on the ultimate outcome. But I think we need people to be incentivized and motivated to get out the vote until the last possible second, until the last polling station closes. Because it's just that important. And I think in Georgia, everybody's focused on Georgia. There are other races that are equally as important. It's just that it's incredible what we're seeing in Georgia. I'm no longer, in need of the smelling salt, Santita. I'm just saying our Father who art in heaven. And it's great. And it's great. Lord's Prayer has always been helpful for me. Because I think we are really seeing a new day in politics, at least here in Georgia. We have to just look at the history of Georgia. There's so many firsts, but we have to get rid of the nostalgia of the first and just get out the vote and just touch everyone. The outpouring of, I will say this, Stacey Abrams' campaign is probably the most aggressive campaign I've ever seen. And I say that in a very complimentary way because that's what it takes to get out the vote. Very, very aggressive in their outreach. Once you voted, it doesn't stop there. they're like, get 5 friends to vote. Have you gotten the 5 friends? If you got 4 friends, try 1 more friend. I mean, they're constantly reaching out. Sometimes it can appear to be annoying, but guess what? It makes me think, let me just call some people to make sure they voted. And I think that's what's at stake. So much is at stake that on so many levels, that so many organizations, not just Stacey Abrams, Fair Fight, and all of the obvious organizations are on point with this, Santita. It's just critical. We need to vote like this is the last vote that we'll ever cast. It won't be, but that's how we.
And you should do it all the time. I mean, Daryl, I've got 1 minute for you.
No, absolutely. I think that everyone is just right on point with regards to being certain that this is the most important election. It really is. And when I tell you about the intensity that's out there, it's a real intensity that's there. It's intense because people recognize the importance of this election, the importance of a woman's ability to do what she wants to do with her body. All of that is on the ballot right now. With regards to, let me just say this very quickly, with regards to the Senator Schumer incident, I remember in 2020 where they didn't think that Warnock and Ossoff would both win. It was that youth vote that came out to turn it around. Folks, I'm telling you, don't believe the polls, believe the votes. Get the voters out, get the votes in, and then get the results after the votes are counted. That's where we stand on this thing, Tina.
Amen. And we're going to be talking with Illinois County Commissioner. You could stay, please. Donna Miller about voting down ballot, which is something that you've been talking about, CK, Aaron, Robert, and Daryl. You got to vote for all of these offices, everybody. All of them really, really, really matter, Robert Patillo. I mean, if you don't, you're missing judges. And so when you look at these cases, Kyle Rittenhouse, Jussie Smollett, these are the people who adjudicate. Your state prosecutor, the state's attorney, all of that. You got to vote all the way around, and you need to know what people do. So stay right here. Let's talk about this, everybody. It's politics all day long on the Santita Jackson Show. Whew, I just love it, love it, love it. I love this time of year. I love it, I love it, I love it. And I want you to get up there and vote, everybody. Go to vote.org, vote.org. Find out what your voting status is, what your registration status is. You can do something about it, everybody. And then find out if your vote's been if your registration has been challenged. Make sure you have the appropriate ID when you go to the polls, not just your license or your passport, but something that shows that you live in a particular place and pay bills there. Light, gas, all of that. And then 1-866-OUR-VOTE. 1-866-OUR-VOTE. If you have any trouble at the polls, just before you get in the polls or just inside the polls or inside the polls or at any place in the polls, anywhere in the perimeter, call these lawyers. They're going to help you. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a few minutes. Thank you, beautiful people. CK?
Yes, Santita?
Everybody, we've got to talk about affirmative action tomorrow. Affirmative action.
Focused on voting, and I have to tell you, while we're focused on voting, there's another group that's pushing stuff that we're not paying attention to, and that's the U.S. Supreme Court.
Oh, my gosh. So that's what I'm saying. The North Carolina and Harvard cases are about to be heard, and they are inclined. Their inclination is to eliminate race as a factor in admissions for America's universities. And to be clear, all of the Asian community does not feel this way. The Asian community is really interesting. Those of us who are readily identifiable others, have to put it that way. We can either be very conservative, and Black people, as you well know, thank you. We can be very conservative or very progressive. When we got out to California, CK and Aaron and Attorney Patillo and Attorney Daryl Jones, what was mind-blowing about California, the California campaign in '84, was that it was basically Asian. The Chinese American community, the Japanese American community, they embraced the campaign whole hog, and they were running it, populating it and running it. And when we got to San Francisco in July for the convention, they're not typically very expressive in terms of their politics. But you got to Chinatown, and they had these huge banners at the entrances Welcome Jesse Jackson and delegates. And if they thought you were with Jesse Jackson, you got all kinds of discounts or free food. Oh, they were wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So, Commissioner Donna Miller, how are you?
I am fine. Thank you so much for having me this morning.
Of course. Well, we're trying to find out about down ballot voting. CK, are you still there?
I'm still here, Santita, but I'm going to have to peel off.
Okay, but I want you to say hello to Donna Miller before she leaves. Very dear friend, brilliant commissioner. But thank you so much for being with us, CK. I always grab
it
us
is
so early.
great to share such magnificently brilliant minds. Thank you, Santita, for providing this forum. And Commissioner Miller, thank you for all that you do. And I wish I could say I'm multitasking.
Well, you know, when you come to Chicago, if you need to get your teeth down, her husband's a brilliant dentist. So if you get a toothache, we'll call David.
That's right.
I'm not kidding. I'm very serious. Actually.
So I'll reach out to you later, Santita. Thank you again.
Oh, please do.
Bye, everybody.
Please do. All right, everybody. So, Daryl, are you still there? Or do you have to peel off?
Yeah, I was going to peel off as well, Santita.
Okay, and Aaron, are you still here? Do you have to peel off? Robert, anyone?
I got to get
60 seconds, everyone.
Costume.
Okay. Okay, go on and be witchy poo with those red lips. Robert, you still here? Or do you have to peel off?
I'll stick around for a little while.
Okay, please do. Okay, sweetie. Happy Halloween. Happy Halloween. Bless your heart. If you don't mind, I'm going to lead in with Robert, okay, Commissioner?
That's fine.
Okay.
Wonderful.
He's a brilliant, he's the head of our regional office, Rainbow Push in Atlanta, brilliant civil rights lawyer. And he has his own show. It's a great show. Girls, you got to be ready for Robert and his people. From 1 to 4 Eastern Standard Time on WAOK, which is the iconic talk radio station down in Atlanta. And going to be talking about the importance of voting down ballot. Thank you so much. All right.
Wonderful. I got to connect him with my Atlanta people.
Okay. Well, he's someone you should know.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
To a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show. We've got a lot to talk about today. It's Halloween. We want you to please be safe. Go to Hey Dr. Nina, Dr. Shanina Knighton, our infection preventionist, who's with us every day. She has some wonderful instructions about how you can stay safe as an adult and how you can keep your children safe, your loved ones safe. Don't just grab in those Halloween lanterns. Don't do that. Please be careful, because not just COVID, but all kinds of viruses can rest on those wrappers. Think about that, everybody. Just be careful. We've been talking about Raphael Warnock, and get out there and vote, everybody. Get out there and vote. And then, we were talking about what you can do to protect yourself at the polls. We have one of my favorite people, Illinois Cook County Commissioner. I have to be mindful of the fact this is a national show. Illinois Cook County Commissioner Donna Miller, who is with us. And one of her, she's very, very, very engaged with the community and wants us to be involved, and is looking to empower those of us who are most vulnerable in our community, women of color, all of that. But she also has a special interest, a keen interest on knowing who you're voting for and voting down ballot. I came across any number of articles in which, the ACLU is getting involved in Secretary of State races for the first time in their history, for example. They're spending $1 million in digital campaigning. Why? We never thought about Secretaries of State before. Until these presidential elections were in peril, right? Because that's what happened. That's what happened in Florida in 2000. So, what about Kim Foxx? What about Marilyn Mosby? What about? These are elected positions, and I know your eyes glaze over and they cross when you when you go to the polls and see these endless lists of people for whom you need to vote, but you need to know who they are. This is your opportunity to make your voice heard. Robert Patillo, voting down ballot. It seems that Republicans pay a lot of attention to voting down ballot. Do you think the Democrats are doing the same these days?
They're not, and they really should. And this kind of started with the OFA, with Obama for America, when they started taking money out of the state and local parties in order to finance the national reelection campaign. As a result, we saw during the Obama years 1,000+ seats being won by Republicans on the state and local level. And that's your feeder system. That's your minor leagues. Your Congress people of 2040 are running for state representative right now somewhere. They're running for county commission somewhere, and they're going to be working their way up. So we don't invest in the grassroots in the farm system. It's difficult to have candidates later on. And also, that's where people touch their elected officials the most, on the local level. Your local officials are the ones you're going to see at church, that you're going to see at the Little League baseball game, at the grocery store, and the best ability of the public to influence public policy is with the elected officials that are closest to them. So there's never been enough money put into state and local races. There's never enough media attention on these state and local races. Often it ends up simply being a name recognition or popularity contest, where the candidate who throws the biggest neighborhood fish fry gets to be the agricultural director or something along those lines. So we have to pay more attention to these races. We're going to have far more significance on your daily life than many of the federal races do.
Mm-hmm, which that's giving you the runway. Welcome to the show, first of all, Commissioner, Illinois Cook County Commissioner Donna Miller. What do you do? I mean, I've often heard that the Illinois Cook County Board of Commissioners, that this is one of the largest governments in the world. Please explain. Because we have Rodney Ellis, who was about the second most powerful man in Texas politics. You know, Commissioner Rodney Ellis. Mm-hmm, and when he left the state Senate in Texas, people were like, what is he doing? He's going to be a commissioner of Harris County, which is on the verge of overtaking Chicago as the third most populous county in the United States. But we saw his budget balloon. The people his staff ballooned. He said, oh no, I can do far more from this place than I could from the U.S. from the state Senate, even though I had a lot of influence there. He built up a lot of credibility and influence. What is the Cook County Board of Commissioners? What do you do?
Well, thanks again for having me, Santita, and thank you to your guest, who also just spoke it very eloquently about building the bench, which is very important. But as a commissioner, as you stated, Cook County is the second largest county, so we'll see what happens in Harris County in the coming years. Yes. Cook County is the second largest county in the entire country. We are set up a little bit differently than Harris County, but what we do here in Cook County is we're responsible for public health, and that could not have been more important during this pandemic. Mm-hmm. Public health, meaning we are the commissioners of the Cook County Department of Public Health as well. We oversee what happens at Cook County Health and Hospital System, which is the largest public hospital in the country, as well as all the clinics that are associated with the health department and the health system. And any sort of issues like a pandemic that come down, that would be under the responsibility of the Cook County Department of Public Health, which means every part of Cook County outside of the city of Chicago. So the city of Chicago has its own Department of Public Health. So that's where we're a little bit unique in that situation too. So public health, public safety meaning the sheriff's department is under our jurisdiction as far as the budget goes. The state's attorney, the public defender, the public guardian, so the court system, all of those are under the budget purview of the county commissioners, of which I have to add there are 17 county commissioners in Cook County. And then the forest preserve is also something that's under the purview of the county commissioners. So we are the commissioners for the Cook County Forest Preserve, which is the largest forest preserve in the country, over 70,000 acres. of public land specifically designated to be for wildlife and for environmental factors in the forest. And also, people don't realize that the Forest Preserve is also the Botanic Garden and the Brookfield Zoo. So a lot of things encompass what commissioners do in Cook County, but it is one of those offices that people don't know much about, or they might not know their commissioner. I try to make sure my constituents know their commissioner and are informed. But this is something that does affect your everyday life and has influence over what happens in your communities and what happens in your municipality and Cook County as a whole.
Well, we're talking with Illinois Cook County Commissioner Donna Miller about what she does, about what your county commission does. It's important for you to know these things because there are many people, as we were talking with, of course, Attorney Robert Patillo, who skip down ballot races. And that's a mistake. In fact, there's an opinion piece, Robert Patillo, Attorney Patillo, and Commissioner Miller, that it says this: the president's party typically loses ground in midterm elections. In 2 weeks, we'll find out if this year will be an exception. But even if Democrats buck historical trends and hold on to Congress, there is another cause for concern on the left. Democrats have a roll-off problem. We know that some people would roll off their ballots, voting for candidates higher on the ballot, but not for the down ballot offices such as the state legislature. But how common is ballot roll-off, and do both parties experience it equally? We compare the differences between the number of votes, major parties, major party presidential, gubernatorial, U.S. Senate, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it was quite stunning. Down ballot Democrats received fewer votes than up ballot candidates in their own party. Down ballot roll-off was less severe for down ballot Republican state legislative candidates. Let me bounce back to you, Robert Patillo. So, this did happen. In the Obama years, what was your justification for this? Because, it's interesting. We've had David Daley on the show many, many times, senior fellow at Fair Vote, New York Times bestselling author of Rat Effed, the true story of the secret plan to steal our democracy, and his latest book, which is Unrigged, How Americans are Battling Back to Save Their Democracy. And he actually, it's a report, but it's just written like a spy novel, Commissioner Miller. The night that Barack Obama was elected president of the United States, the top Republican operatives that we know of came together and said, you can have the presidency. Y'all got it. What we're going to do is take over state legislatures. We're going to become governors. We're going to take over counties. We're going to take over the rest of America because this is where Americans live. Robert Patillo. Democrats are not, they're skipping down ballot races.
Absolutely. Because for some reason, I think Democrats have become kind of that stereotype that Republicans have said for years, kind of the East Coast, West Coast liberal elitists who think that, sitting in their Ivy League palaces, that they dictate to the rest of America. And in many ways, that it's too arduous for them to go down and campaign for a county commissioner in Brunswick, Georgia, or for Barack Obama to show up in Marion, Alabama, to help bring on stage, somebody who's running for city council right now. And it becomes very difficult to build a party that way because if you look at these Trump monster truck rallies, when he pulls into town, he pulls all the local pro-Trump elected officials. I mean, all the way. I was at the one that he did up in Dalton County in Marjorie Taylor Greene's district last year. And, the people who are running for Secretary of State, who are running for Attorney General, Agricultural Secretary, and these are primary races, not even the general election. He has them on stage with him. And imagine if you're in a little small town like Dalton, Georgia, what it means to voters when they see you on stage with the former president of the United States. You put your imprimatur on the party. You put your imprimatur on candidates, and it makes it easier for them to get elected. by drumming up that level of support and media attention and fundraising by simply being associated. So it's not just a question of the lack of investment in state and local parties. It's the lack of campaigning, the lack of people power, the lack of continuity being built. I said this weekend when President Obama was in Atlanta last week that it was great for him to do so, but why would you wait until after early voting started to do this for the first and only time? Meanwhile, President Trump every single weekend for the last 2 years has been somewhere campaigning for his candidates. And that's part of the reason it's difficult to build these state and local grassroots parties and the feeder system that you need, because if you're not investing now, you're going to be very mad in 10 years when you need those people to start running for national office and even the presidency.
Absolutely. But, I tell you what, the person who does not have that problem is Commissioner Miller. I'm getting so many messages about your engagement in the community, Commissioner Miller. People are thanking you for helping them to get vaccinated. They're appreciating the fact that they see you all the time. I don't know how you have been married so successfully to this wonderful man, and you have these beautiful children. Of course, she has a Howardite in the family. Hello, I love it. I love it. I love it.
Hello.
But you're very, very engaged in the community. And if most of us had to, and you hear Attorney Patillo, the thing is you have to be engaged. And it's very interesting given your, you've got name recognition, you're beloved, you're well liked. You could have run for many other offices, but you chose this one. And it has to, because there are like 16 or 17 of you, yes?
Yes, there's 17 commissioners. Okay. But, we have a large constituency base, and, I appreciate all of those comments. So thank you for saying that as well. But each commissioner here in Cook County, we represent about 310,000 people.
Wow.
So in certain areas, that's a congressional area.
Yeah, but I'm saying, so why not run for Congress? So why not do that? Because you could do that.
Well, but so we'll see. But right now, I think that this was an important seat for me to be in, to utilize my experience. I came from the pharmaceutical industry and had a healthcare background and been very passionate about healthcare issues. And I think I couldn't have, not that I wanted to plan for a disaster to happen, like a pandemic, but it did leverage all of my experiences and able to pull together things that I'm familiar with and help the county as well expand their knowledge and capabilities on the things that we could do to get education to the community, resources to the community, get people vaccinated. So all of that was a perfect place for me to be at that time.
As we're watching people skip these down ballot races that are such tremendous consequence. Because I remember going to one of your meetings and, looking at the people who were there, and I said, now, wow, Mayor Daley's brother, he's here. Tony Preckwinkle, she's here. I was looking at all the people who know politics and who know how government is supposed to work, who know where resources are supposed to go, because that's ultimately the point, right? Where resources go, who gets them? Because that's what you do. You give Chicago our budget. And most people don't know that.
In certain instances. So there are, there's a lot of money being sent to the county that goes for county municipalities, and then Chicago has its own money. But I will say, down ballot races, and unfortunately, as was stated earlier, campaigning for down ballot races isn't popular. And we have to get that. Just think of the amount of people we represent and what it represents. And we are down ballot. So even on this ballot right now. And we don't have the resources that other offices have, for instance, like the State House or what have you. We don't have those type of resources given to us. Hopefully that's going to change over time. And I saw a little bit of a change this time where there's been, involvement from the Democratic Party, more so on the down ballot races, but it's still not enough. It needs to be tremendous amount more focus on the judges on the down ballot races. The first time the party actually put out something with all of the judges on it. First time that, the party put out something that had down ballot races on it. So that at least creates the awareness. But, like you mentioned, my son, he has a mail-in ballot. He texted me this morning at 3:00 in the morning to say, how do I vote for these judges? So the education for young people is still not there. It's not even young people. It's all people.
Everybody.
But as with, and as Attorney Patillo mentioned, campaigning for those down ballot races in the Republican Party has been part of their playbook and has been something they've been doing. They have been focused on judges. They have been focused on appellate courts in the state. They've been focused on state Supreme Courts. And now you see how our U.S. Supreme Court is. So that's because of that intentionality and focus on those races. And the Democratic Party needs to get that focus and get that engaged and get our young people who are going to be voting longer than us, who are, our young people accustomed to voting all the way down the ballot.
Amen. We're talking to Illinois Cook County Commissioner Donna Miller about voting down ballot and about knowing what our elected officials do, knowing what they do, and getting more people. Do you need to have a lot of money to run?
You do, yes. And it's also, that's what else people forget, and they also think that just because you're in a Democratic area, that you're safe and you don't have to spend as much money. You still have to spend money to get your message out. You still have to spend money so that people want to vote for you. And you still have to spend money, you're advertising the office. And that does create the excitement or the will or the need where people will see that they should vote for these people.
You need money.
Including myself.
Well, because you're constantly raising money.
Money.
I have to shameless plug her husband, Dr. David Miller, excellent dentist, everybody. Love him, love him, love him. Just have to say it. Let me get a couple calls in before we go. Maurice has been holding so patiently. You're so sweet, Maurice, and I want you to know how much I appreciate your support and your engagement in this show. What's up, sweetie? I have a couple of minutes for you.
Oh, good morning. I think Senator Warnock made a mistake when they evicted him. His church evicted some of them poor people out in low-income housing. And then I think the other mistake that the party made was in Illinois when the governor and the Black Caucus didn't make sure that the marijuana was done appropriately, especially with the gaming. A lot of black people got sidestepped or I don't want to say inappropriate word. They didn't get a fair shake to the thing. And then on the White House, they didn't for the recovery plan. The rescue plan. How come they didn't put in for the black farmers?
But I think that's where advocacy. Let me pitch that to you, Robert, very quickly. Advocacy matters. That's why you've got to be involved in politics. You got to be involved. I got about 30 seconds for you to answer.
Can I say something else?
Oh, well, very quickly. Hurry up, sweetie.
Yeah,
I'm up against the clock.
Some people, they're tired of the getting played by the Democratic Party, especially in Illinois. So there's more evidence. I mean, Pritzker, he just put his another straw on the pie.
Well, you know what? I think that's why.
The union, construction union, had played black men and women. I mean,
but you know what? Let me tell you something. This is, I think, Americans are looking at both parties, the major parties, which are corporate driven, and there is disappointment. That's why more and more Americans are declaring themselves independent. So it's not just a Democratic thing now. And when you look at the Trump takeover of the Republican Party, he has taken over the Republican Party, and so establishment Republicans are trying to figure out what to do because he has brought in people to the party who were not there or who were leaving. Think about that. Let me go to Paul from Seattle very quickly. Paul, I want to get you on the air before I go, sweetie. What's on your mind? You got a minute to make a comment.
Okay, you bet. Thank you. I can tell you why Democrats kind of ignore down ballot races because essentially the philosophy of conservatism is local politics. You can see with this conservative sheriff's association and think they have the right to, kind of police the polls, and they think that the county sheriff is the highest law enforcement authority in the land. This is kind of like old England. It's like So the philosophy of conservatism is local politics. And Democrats, you see, we have things, we advocate for big federal programs like Social Security and Medicare, and they're tremendously successful. But honestly, we're going to have to move to our progressive ideas at the state level. And there are ways to do that. Well, I can't get Democrats' attention on this because they still think that if we do that and let red states be on their own and have progressive ideas at the state level, that a lot of Democrats and a lot of poor people will be left out in those red states. But in my view, those people will start getting up and fighting in the states where they live for the programs and start voting. Whereas if we don't take care of everything at the federal level, it becomes this kind of big government idea, and people don't look at the down ballot races because the Democrats just don't think they're important. All they know is about the president and the vice president and maybe their senator, and a lot of them don't know who the representative is. So it's a different conservative.
But we can't wait for the Democrats. We have to do it ourselves. How about that? We can't wait for them. We cannot wait. You cannot wait. And I tell you, the proof is in the pudding, because when I look at all of these messages lauding Commissioner Donna Miller and her service to the community, her presence in the community, it's a testament. That's why people continue to elect her. Sending you much love, my dear sister. I'm so glad you were with us today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me. And this is a great topic. And I hope that everyone does spread that message. Vote up and down the ticket.
Well, try and squeeze us in before Election Day, which is a week from tomorrow, everybody. 30 seconds. You want people to vote why, Commissioner Miller?
I want people to vote up and down the ticket, first of all, because that strengthens all of what happens in all of our communities. Specifically, if you're voting in Cook County, you can vote for me, Cook County Commissioner Donna Miller. And I also want you to focus on the judges' races, because that is equally important.
Amen to that. Attorney Robert Patillo, I got 30 seconds for you.
I think that this is the GOTV time that you have to make sure you get out there and vote up and down the ballot. Make sure you're making intelligent decisions. And once you voted, make sure you bring a friend, tell a friend to tell a friend. This, as with most elections, is turning out to be one of the most important of our lifetime. So it's important that we inform, engage, and activate people to vote.
Well, tomorrow he'll be back with us as we talk about them sending the proposal to send Haitian refugees to Guantanamo Bay. You can't, the base, that's right, to imprison them. Unbelievable. Then we've got to talk about affirmative action tomorrow. There's so much to talk about as we're getting ready to vote, everybody. Get out there and vote. I love you. Can't wait to be with you tomorrow on the Santita Jackson Show. God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
That was great. Thank you.
Oh, I'm so glad you now see it was painless, wasn't it? Yes.
Oh, of course. No, you're awesome.
No,
make
you
it
are
very,
very sweet. You're very sweet, but thank you. Yeah, now we're on Facebook Live now, just so that you know.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Is the attorney still on? I need his contact information. I'll get it from you.
Well, I will share it. Could I share? Perfect. Could I connect you to each other?
Yes, that would be wonderful.
Oh, he's absolutely brilliant. He's based in Atlanta. And he's our Southeastern Regional Director for Rainbow Push, but he's brilliant.
Wonderful. So I have some people who want to get involved in Atlanta. My sister lives in Atlanta.
Oh, get out of here. Well, he's your guy. He's your guy.
Yes.
He's your guy.
Wonderful.
Yay.
Well, thank you. And you have a great day.
Okay.
And I will be in touch. And I'd love to come back before the election if that's possible.
Let's do that. Yep. I mean, and thank you for agreeing to be a part of the panel. And of course, because I'm still on Facebook Live, I do not pull you into taking these positions. It's talk radio. That's what we do. But that is not what I'm doing with you here. Just, I think that people need to know who folks are. That people need to, Brandon Johnson has had a show on this station for some time. It's a brilliant host. And of course, he has some other aspirations, so he's not able to do that at this time. But it's a wonderful, radio is ubiquitous. It's everywhere all the time. So
Absolutely.
It's important. Yeah. I didn't realize how much
it engages people.
Yeah, it really, really does. I was in the airport, and I asked for something in, one of the little kiosks. And this woman turned around and looked at me like she had seen like she was seeing, I'm not going to say a ghost because I'm very much alive, but Like she was shocked. She said, "Oh my gosh, you're Santita Jackson." I said, "Yes, ma'am." And, who knows how people know you, right? Because, 7 Jackson. So, people know us. I grew up in Chicago. What am I going to say? And she said, "I listen
Right.
to you every single day." And it almost brought tears to my eyes because she started going through the different shows. And it was just, this. I said, "Well, I'm up at 2:00 in the morning." I said this, in my mind. I said, "And this is why I do it, because,
That's right.
it's a service to the community." And I just thank God for the opportunity to do that. So
Well, you do a wonderful job.
you are very sweet.
Relevant topics, always timely, and people like her and other people like me who listen in appreciate your dedication to the community. It means a lot.
Well, we appreciate yours.
Yeah.
So there's
Well,
that.
thank you.
And I will connect you to Attorney Patillo right now.
Okay, wonderful. Have a great day.
You too, sweetie. Have a good one.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. All right. Bye-bye.
I love you all, everybody. I'm going to get on out of here so I can get on with the rest of my day, get on with the rest of yours. I'm about to go out in the rain. Thank God for a blow dryer. Hello. All right, everybody. God bless you. Have a great one. Thank you.